How about that? I gave you the best view of the house, straight down into the kettle. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do what's called pitching the yeast. Basically what you do is you just take it, pour it right in. You want to try and get all the little yeasties in there that you can. So there's still some kind of stuck on the side. So I'm going to kind of dip it into the mix here, swirl it around a little bit, get all those little critters in there. The more the merrier. Everybody into the pool, as they say. Then I'm going to take my strainer, stainless steel strainer for lack of better words, and I'm just going to go back and forth and just stir the heck out of this mix. If this weren't a family video, I would have used a different word than heck. But I'm going to stir kind of violently to get as much of that aeration happening in there that I talked about earlier. The more air you can get in there, the better. So I'm going to do this for about 5 minutes. My arm's going to start to kill. I'm going to get bored. I'm going to start thinking about other things. So I'm not going to show you this on video because 5 minutes of this would make you probably fall asleep. So I'm going to kind of time lapse it, I guess. I'll turn it off for now and I'll come back in about 5 minutes and show you the next step. So 5 minutes of stirring. I kind of have changed the direction. Like, I don't know, I just kind of go crazy with it. Get as much circulation in there as I can. So there, 5 minutes of that. And then what I'm going to do, I don't need this so much anymore, so I'm just going to put it in the sink, not care about it, is I'm going to take you over here, and I'm going to try one-handed to flip this glass jug upside down, right side up I should say. Let's see if I can do that here. Actually I probably can't. So, maybe I can do it this way. And then take this funnel here and set it in the opening of this. Now, I want to bring this down to my waist level. If you try and pour into this on top of the counter, your pot on top of over here, you're going to have a huge mess. So I'm going to make room to do that. I'm going to put this jug down here so it's kind of out, like I said, at my waist. Let me give you another good view here. Sorry about all the flippy camera angles. Let me see here. Will that work? Yeah. Okay. So then what I'm going to do is just take my juice. I'm going to try and aim it right in the middle of that funnel and not spill anything because this is precious cargo. And just one smooth motion, pour it in there. Now what's happening, I don't think you can see, but in the jug itself, more bubbles are happening. It's getting more aerated, stirred up, mixed up. And I think that's great. I think it makes it go a little bit better fermentation than just kind of pouring it in there carefully and making sure you don't have any bubbles. I kind of let the bubbles settle down a little bit. Pour a little bit more in. Try and get it as close to the top of the neck as I can. And actually there comes a point where you kind of have to lift the funnel up so that you can pour in more. You want to get it as full as you can. No, that's not true. Not as full as you can, because then it would be like right at the top. You want to leave a little teeny bit of space between the juice and the airlock. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to steal just a tiny little bit out of this pot, and I'm going to give it a taste to kind of get an idea of what it's going to taste like. Oh my gosh. This is going to be, I think, really amazing. Apple cherry juice. I may have to actually go back and get some more of this juice because this is delicious. Anyway, I got distracted. What I was saying is you want to leave, get this juice back up here. You want to leave a little bit of space between the airlock and the top of the rim. Can you see right here? So basically that turns out to be like, oh, I don't know, about an inch space between here and the top. I could put more in, but what's going to happen is as it ferments, it's going to start to bubble in this airlock. The bubbles are going to get more and more violent, and it's actually going to spill over into the airlock. Fill up the airlock sometimes with the cider or the wine that you're making. And if it goes too violent, it will actually spill out of the top of the airlock, go all over the counter, the kitchen, the refrigerator, the floor. You see in the background that cherry bomb? That's how it got its name. It was cherry wine that I made. It fermented so much that it actually bubbled out of the plastic fermenter and blasted all over the side of the fridge here, the counter, the floor, the sink over here. And I mean, it was everywhere. And I said to myself, wow, this is like a cherry bomb. And that's how that name was born. So you want to leave a little bit of a space between the top of the neck, the top of the bottle, sorry, and the three-piece airlock. That way it gives it a little bit of room to ferment. Headroom is, I believe, the term that they use for that. You do want to have some, but you don't want to have too much. So let me get this down here, give you a good view, put the airlock on. So now what we're going to do, I'm going to take this rubber stopper. I'm going to take this first piece of the airlock and make sure that there's no sanitizing solution in there. I'm going to put it inside this rubber stopper. Now I am touching the stopper and this up here, but I'm actually going to spray it again before I put it into the bottle, the jug. I'm going to take the second piece here, this little bullet-shaped piece that fits over the air tube. Now what I'm going to do, now that's kind of sealed off, is I'm going to fill it with sanitizing solution up to the line that I know you probably can't see in the video. Let me move it over here so I don't spray it all over. But there's a line kind of recommended of where you fill this solution. And that way you create a good seal. And I think that's good, right up the line. I'm going to take my last piece, the third piece. I'm getting tired, can you tell? The lid, actually, the third piece I'm going to snap on here. Make sure that you hear that snap. Then I'm going to take the whole thing and spray it again. The bottom, the sides, the top of the top, everything. Make sure it's all covered with sanitizing solution. Give it a little shake to kind of drip it off. Put it over the top of the bottle. Set it down. Now what I want to do is kind of push it into place and make sure that I can get this rubber stopper to seat down and not pop back out like it tends to do right here. So I use a, what size is this? I use a 6.5, no sorry, a 6 stopper in a 1 gallon jug. It does fit in there nicely. You kind of have to wait until the sanitizing solution gets driven off the side of the rubber stopper. That's what kind of makes it lift off, is because it's still wet, but it doesn't really want to seat in there. So I kind of keep messing around with it until I can get it to stay in place. Another thing you can do, see if I can do this with my fingers out of the camera, is you can kind of drive the three-piece airlock down into the rubber stopper a little bit more. And what that does is it kind of increases the diameter here, kind of makes it bulge out a little bit. And that way you can kind of get it to seat down a little bit better. Kind of hold it in place, maybe drive it in just a little bit further, and then see what it does. As it kind of makes it nice and snug. You want to kind of keep an eye on it and make sure that it's not going to blow out of the top. It's starting to lift off a little bit here, so I'm kind of push it down in there again. Make sure it doesn't lift off. So now the headspace I talked about, here to here, is probably now ½ inch maybe. I'm a little worried about that. I think that might be not enough room, and I think that it's going to actually bubble up into the airlock again, and especially at 1084 It's going to have a lot of sugar, a lot of nutrients, and I have a feeling that this one might be a remake of a cherry bomb, an apple cherry bomb. So it's kind of lifting up again. I'm kind of going to keep an eye on it for a couple minutes, push it back down to make sure that as I'm sleeping tonight that this doesn't blow off, because that would be horrible. Then your whole sample would be, your whole jug would be contaminated, and then all this would be for naught. So it's getting there. It's still wanting to lift. I tend to drive them down to where they're almost flush right here. It makes it hard to get out. Sometimes I have to take a sanitized knife and kind of stick in here and pry this up. I did come across some really nice stoppers today at a brew store here in San Diego, and I think I might convert to those. They kind of stick up here, and then this airlock actually goes down inside of them. A friend of mine got them today, and I'm going to admit I was a little bit jealous. They're pretty nice. If it weren't for the fact that I have so many of these, that I would probably convert. So I don't really want to spend the money on that right now. These have been working out for me so far. So it has stopped lifting. I think we're good to go. I'll give it another little push. Make sure it's kind of flush. And there you have it. So what happens now is I have 1 gallon of apple cherry, well, it's apple juice. It's apple cherry concentrate, frozen concentrate. And basically it's going to probably by maybe tomorrow night, and if not for sure Friday. Today's Wednesday. It'll start to ferment. So what'll happen is in this fermenter, in this airlock, you'll see bubbles kind of come, and the little bullet-shaped piece that I put in there will kind of lift up and down as it bubbles. And then the top here has these tiny little micro holes. I'm not even sure if you can see them, but they're very, very small holes that don't let any particles get in, but it actually lets the gas escape that is created inside of there. And you can start to smell it come through those holes. Let me tell you, that is so exciting to me, because the fermentation is starting. You can kind of smell your product. You get that smell of the yeast, and I don't know if you're the kind of person that likes the smell of yeast, but I happen to be one that does, and I love it. I love smelling that, the top of that lid right there, and get a whiff of your product that you're making. You can kind of smell the juice. You smell the sugars a little bit. You smell the yeast, and it's kind of hard to explain. So you either are like me and a little bit weird and you like it, or you kind of look at that and you hear what I say and you go, wow, you're kind of a freak. But I think it's pretty exciting. I think the fermentation process is exciting. Anyway, that's enough of me babbling about fermentation. Cooler is better. I found that if you have 65, maybe 70, 75 degrees in your house, I think it would be ideal. I've read that 65 is probably the perfect temperature. What happens is it allows those yeasts to gobble up all that sugar, and it takes a long time at that temperature because it's kind of cold, they're kind of cold, they have enough nutrients to get by, but they don't have the warmth to try and make them violently do what they need to do. I have fermented both at 70 degrees, and then another batch of wine I did at, we had a hot snap up here on the mountain, and it was 80 degrees, and I couldn't find a cool spot in the house. There is a little screened porch kind of off of my kitchen that happens to be 5, sometimes 10 degrees cooler than in the house. I put the jugs out there, and I think the ferment's out there a lot better. So cooler is better. Like I said, 65 to 75. I think that would be perfect. I have, again, like I said, brewed at 80 degrees, and it works. Your time gets cut down. Your first fermentation is a week, at least up here. I've read that it takes somewhere between 2 weeks to a month to get the first fermentation done. I've never experienced anything longer than a week. Maybe it's just where I live. I don't know if I live on a mountain. It's 2,400 feet, I think, up we are. I don't know if elevation has anything to do with that, or temperature, or I'm not sure what. So anyway, so what I'm going to do is turn off this video, turn off this camera, end this video, take this jug out to what I call the library. It's a screened room, like I said, off of our kitchen. It's got a bunch of books in there from our landlord, and it just happens to be the cool, quiet spot for fermentation. So this is the first fermentation. Hopefully this won't take too long, and then I can make a video and show you how to rack, it's called, from this bottle to another bottle, to get off any sediment that's on the bottom that we may not want, help clear it up. I don't know if you can tell, but it's a little bit cloudy right now. Probably will stay that way. The juice itself is very dark. So yeah, this is the first fermentation of apple cherry cider. Again, thanks for watching. Well, not again, I never said it, but thanks for watching. I hope you weren't bored, and again, I apologize for all the abrupt camera angles and the shaking, but doing this by yourself with a tripod and trying to find the right angles, hey, I hope you like it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon. Bye.